Colorado is so desperate to staff its prisons, we're flying in officers from Puerto Rico who now tell us they're being mistreated here.
I felt like an inmate, and it was really disrespectful. I felt discouraged.
The Catholic Archdiocese of Denver is suing the state for the right to discriminate in preschool. Indictments of Donald Trump and his Colorado-connected allies are not slowing down this state's most prominent election denier.
We expose what was inside the machines.
And an enormous back-to-school backpack drive in northern Colorado is a little short on funds this year. I bet I know a few people who might help, because this is next. Colorado is so hard up to find prison guards, they're flying them in from Puerto Rico, giving them a one-way plane ticket, handing them a uniform, and offering them housing inside the prisons. Some of them tell our Cole Sullivan they feel like inmates.
Work at the Buena Vista Correctional Complex
Yeah, prison guard.
meant possibility for Sean Fernandez.
Wanted to do it to make a change in my life and help my family out.
In desperate need of workers, the Department of Corrections recruited him and dozens of others from home in Puerto Rico to guard inmates in Colorado. Life here, he says, was not as advertised.
And that's my room. That's pretty much how I'm living right now.
Fernandez and a couple dozen other Puerto Rican workers live at the prison in cubicles.
This is pretty much the same thing as the inmate showers almost.
He says prison supervisors routinely conducted what he calls shakedowns of staff quarters, searching through their stuff as often as twice a week, sometimes while he tried to sleep.
I felt like an inmate.
And felt worse, he says, when coworkers and supervisors discriminated against the Puerto Rican workers on the job.
And they're just saying, hey, you're not supposed to speak in Spanish, this is America, but that's really discriminating. It's kind of disrespectful towards us.
Fernandez says he and other workers can't afford to live anywhere else, even with the DOC housing stipend.
There's times where, I have to help my family out financially. And, if you were to get an apartment over here in Buena Vista, it's like $1,900, almost $2,000.
After reporting of the conditions by Colorado Newsline, he says it has gotten better. The bathrooms now have stall doors, for example. But life in Colorado isn't the possibility he imagined.
I came from nothing, so I'm kind of used to this. But the matter of fact is that you cannot promise us pretty lies to have people leave their home, God knows how far it is, to be mistreated.
The Department of Corrections says the worker housing at the prison was only ever meant to be temporary. A spokesperson says the department will no longer do unannounced inspections and will only do inspections of worker quarters during the daytime. The spokesperson says the department takes allegations of discrimination seriously, and its Inspector General, Kyle, is now investigating.
I mean, I did a double take when you're talking about them searching staff quarters, but I guess it's in a prison.
They're in a prison, and that's one thing that the union that represents these workers says is really an affront to them. As if we're treating this prison housing as their homes, it shouldn't be searched. It should be their private area. And instead, this is what was happening. The prison is now stopping doing unannounced searches.
I mean, the bottom line is they are doing us a big favor by being here because we can't staff them locally.
Exactly.
All right. Cole Sullivan, thank you very much. Catholic schools and the Archdiocese of Denver are now suing the state because they want to be part of Colorado's new universal pre-K program, but they also want to be able to discriminate against gay parents. There are several lawsuits. Latest filed today claims that faith-based private schools are missing out on public funding because along with excluding gay couples, they also want to prioritize the enrollment of Catholic students and hire staff that share their religious views. But the state's funding requirements include a specific non-discrimination clause.
The Supreme Court in the past 6 years has 3 different times said that when the government creates a generally available funding program, like the Colorado Universal Preschool Program here, what it can't do is exclude religious groups or individuals from participating because of their faith. And that's really the basis for our claim.
The lawsuit asks for the anti-discrimination requirements to be overturned and for Catholic schools to be allowed into that program with the staff and families of their choice. The Archdiocese of Denver said in the lawsuit that it does not want to provide preschool to gay couples because, quote, a Catholic school cannot treat a same-sex couple as a family equivalent to the natural family without compromising its mission. As Democratic Governor Jared Polis's universal pre-K program kind of struggles out of the gate, his spokesperson said today that the governor is not sending mixed messages about whether half-day or full-day pre-K is best for kids. So this came up Because 9,000 families were told at the last minute that they were not getting paid full-day preschool as they expected. They were going to get half-day instead. The governor justified that to us in part by saying that kids actually get the most out of half-day anyway.
This is a half-day universal preschool program. That's what the voters approved. It's also developmentally appropriate. Kids benefit the most in that 15 to 20-hour range. I can assure you, as somebody who's reviewed the scientific data and the literature, the biggest academic benefit from preschool is in that 15 to 20-hour range.
So pretty strong argument for half day over full day, which made us do a double take when we heard the governor say this yesterday.
We would love if the voters approved full-day preschool for everybody, but what the voters approved was half-day preschool, and that was based on a funding source from the nicotine tax.
Today, the governor's spokesman said that the governor's position is, quote, nothing new. He said that Polis supports additional funding to expand universal pre-K, including, quote, expanding full-day and childcare options to meet families where they're at. The city of Denver is privately asking property owners if they would be cool with hosting a tiny home village for people living on the streets. Mayor Mike Johnston's administration is trying again to come up with a list of sites after the first list went over pretty poorly with city council. We got some new details today. The mayor says they want to create 7 to 10 micro-communities, like tiny home villages and safe outdoor sites. Each one would serve 40 to 100 people. Locations to be determined. The mayor said today the city is now approaching private property owners, and they've changed their criteria for these sites, including a pledge to now keep them away from schools. Councilwoman Amanda Sawyer had called out the Johnston administration for their initial list that she said put sites at several schools in her district.
I think the criteria we've been focused on really is making sure that they have access to utilities, that they meet basic zoning and permitting criteria, that they have proximity to transit, they have proximity to food sources, and that we have some reasonable distance from schools, and that we have equitable distribution around the city.
So about that equitable distribution, the mayor said today that the list will include sites in all city council districts. The initial list shared with council was criticized by some progressives for concentrating the tiny home villages in Denver's highest need neighborhoods. For decades now, volunteers in northern Colorado have made sure that every single kid goes back to school with the supplies they need. So we're talking about a huge effort, thousands of backpacks full of supplies each year. This year, they're a bit short of the money needed to get it all done. So that's where we come in. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports School is Cool. It's the backpack and school supply drive put together each year by volunteers from Colorado State University. They are putting together 2,700 backpacks filled with school supplies for underserved students in the Poudre School District. CSU employees and students volunteer their time to put these packs together, and the supplies are bought in bulk through the campus bookstore to save money. $30 gets a kid a new backpack and all of the specific supplies called for by each grade level in Poudre schools. This nonprofit effort has expanded its reach. It's now covering preschoolers in the new Universal Pre-K program. And they also leave a number of these backpacks with homeless shelters in the area. They know that there are going to be kids that come into the district throughout the year and will need a fresh start. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. I will never ask you to give to one of these unless I do first, so I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us going. They are real close to their fundraising goal this year so that they can serve even more kids in northern Colorado than ever. An organizer was telling me, they were saying just last week, that they needed an angel to get there this year, and I know that there are a bunch of them watching next.
The deep state came after me and are still coming after me.
The indictment of Donald Trump and his allies, including some well-connected figures in Colorado, is not slowing the flow of election misinformation today. And Colorado's craft breweries try to each offer something different. Soon, they will have one thing in common: a visit from this guy. That's next. The guy in charge of the airport had some good news for City Council today. The airport's long-delayed and uber-expensive Great Hall project is actually on time and under budget. so long as you redefine what on time and under budget mean. Today, CEO Phil Washington attempted to rewrite both the dictionary and history. He told City Council the project's first phase was completed ahead of schedule and $25 million under budget. Same thing with the ongoing gate expansions. On time, under budget. If you're thinking, huh? Same thing from City Council today. They pointed out that a pipe leak last year did $40 million in damage and delayed the gate reopenings. And that Great Hall construction project, I mean, if you cracked a newspaper or watched TV, that thing was delayed at least a year. DIA had to fire the first contractor and paid him $138 million in going away money. Denver's auditor says that put the project over at least $8 million. Well, don't worry. The guy in charge of the airport says that doesn't count.
When I'm looking at the slide, we're on time now for the restarted project.
Correct.
The original timelines obviously didn't work out because the P3 failed. Okay, I gotcha.
Right.
Thank you.
With the exception of the leak that Councilman Flynn, the big B East leak, if you take that out of the equation, on time, on budget.
So it's like every project you've ever had at your house or ones at mine. If you don't count the over budget and over time, trains on the tracks. Earlier this year, Denver's auditor claimed the airport is not keeping track of cost estimates and timelines in an effort to sidestep public records requests. The latest indictment of Donald Trump and his allies for trying to overturn the 2020 election is not keeping Colorado's most prominent election denier from continuing to beat that drum. Tina Peters, the former Republican clerk of Mesa County, who's facing felony charges for tampering with voting systems, spoke today at an election deniers conference in Missouri. We should mention Peters has been offered an official role with the Colorado Republican Party working on election integrity issues as she awaits trial. She addressed the crowd beneath a rotating graphic reading Election Crime Bureau.
There's just a few of these people that are globalists, that are Marxists, that are trying to take over our country because unless America falls, they can't complete the rest of their agenda to take over the world.
That election deniers conference is organized by My Pillow guy Mike Lindell, who said that tomorrow he will unveil a plan given to him by God to secure our elections. Lindell said anyone who does not embrace that plan is part of the evil. Hey, it's been a while since we've seen this happen. I-70 is closed in Glenwood Canyon between Glenwood Springs and Dot Zero. There are mudslides again covering the interstate. Last couple of summers after the bad fire up there, it seemed like the canyon was closing a couple of times a week. It was an enormous disruption to the state. In some cases, the interstate had been closed for days or even weeks because of the amount of mud and rocks on the interstate. Most of the canyon walls became unstable after the Grizzly Creek fire back in 2020. Heavy rain the next year started bringing it down onto I-70. That required months of work. What they ended up doing was they raised the bar, Lauren Robinson, for when they would shut down the highway preemptively, and that's kept a lot of the closures from happening this year. But at this point, when you've got a mudslide on the highway, no go.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing right now. We do even have some flood alerts near those areas. A different story in downtown Denver, where right now we're at 92 degrees dry, but some cloud cover has moved in very dry as far as air quality is concerned, 16% here. And we're seeing these winds come down from the north at just 9 miles per hour. Earlier today, though, we did reach 99 degrees at DIA, which is so far our hottest day of the year, beating our previous hottest day of the year by 1 degree. We were at 98 so far, but 99, the hottest day of the year now. Let's go ahead and take a look at our HD Doppler radar, where we have several scattered showers and storms across the high country and basically everything west of that. We have some starting to push their way into portions of the Front Range, and that does include Denver down to Colorado Springs. But as we take a look here along that I-70 corridor, we do have these scattered showers and storms. We also have a flood watch that's going to be in effect until 8 o'clock this evening, and this is going to be near the Grizzly Creek burn area, and that's for flash flooding. We have a typo there. Flash flooding and debris flows due to excessive rainfall. As we take a look at the wider picture here, we're not expecting any sort of severe weather. Any storms are most likely just going to be in this general thunderstorm risk along the I-70 corridor, then further south down I-25. Tonight, we're going to stay pretty dry here in Denver. Again, maybe a brief storm pushes through. Overnight lows pretty mild near 64 degrees. And as we go over the next 7 days, we're going to have a hot stretch of weather ahead.
Biggest recommendation I have for people is don't do it in this short a time.
Take it from him. The guy trying to get to every brewery in Colorado in a year. There are beer guys, and then there are beer guys. Jeffrey Parker is a beer guy. He is trying to get to all of Colorado's more than 400 breweries in 1 year's time. Figured he might have some insight about an industry that's become closely identified with the identity of this state.
Grew up at the right time, right? Turned 21 in 91, and that's really when the beer scene was really exploding in Colorado. Yeah, I like to be in theme here. And drinking my beer. My name is Jeff Parker. I'm a Colorado native. Very Colorado, yeah. Even on the arm, I've got it. This is rock bottom. I was telling the guys at the bar, I've probably been here 2,000 times. Good friend introduced me to beer and homebrew in 90, probably before I should have been introduced to beer, but it's definitely exploded. I think you're seeing a lot of breweries being sustainable in small towns, which is great for this tour that we're on now. My wife and I are now empty nesters, so we're like looking for things to do that don't involve going to sports games or practice or that kind of stuff. So we set a goal. We've always wanted to go to all the Colorado breweries, but it's never been something we've written down on paper. Let's make it an actual goal. At every stop, we take a picture of me like this, Parker pose, this. Kind of a way for me to share beer with them remotely is how it started. Now it's a way to rub it in that I'm doing it and they're not.
How many have you hit?
464. I've got 14 left. Most of those are on the western slope. All of them are on the western slope. And if everything goes right next week, I'll finish them on Friday the 25th. A couple recessions and people have, changed and moved on. I think the thing that's great that hasn't changed is that Colorado is still largely a collaborative brewing community. And when you go to a brewery, any brewery in Colorado, and you ask them for recommendations, they are happy to jump in and tell you about all their other great breweries that they've been to. I don't see the market is saturated at all. I think that if you're brewing good beer, even if your location isn't great, people will come drink your beer.
Are you allowed to say what your favorite brewery is?
The next one. Always the next one. There's no favorite. It's like picking your favorite child.
Always the next one. I love that. Man, nothing but this job and kids standing between me and doing that. Marissa, thank you. Your feedback. Thanks. Got a note from somebody at CSU during the show tonight that just simply said, bless you. He was talking about you. You're the ones who are helping to complete this enormous nonprofit effort that happens every year in northern Colorado to make sure that every kid in the Poudre School District, regardless of need, has a backpack and all the supplies that they need for school. They're a bit short of their fundraising goal this year. Fewer donations, more need in the community. But we can help out. School is Cool is the name of this drive that's been run by volunteers at CSU for decades. So those backpacks are going to Poudre School District students. Plus, this year, they're also going to cover universal pre-K students. And they always put some extras at the homeless shelters in town that will inevitably welcome families partway through the school year. Scan that QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me in donating to this effort to make sure that every kid in that part of northern Colorado is ready and excited for back to school. Eric writes in about this week's Word of Thanks campaign. He says, I love your $250 match every week. In this case, that buys 8 1/3 backpacks. Might you round up to 9 backpacks? I could, Eric. That would involve some math and digging the credit card out of the pocket again. So maybe somebody else could just kick in $20 and cover the other 2/3 of my backpack. If you do, shoot me an email. I'll give you my thanks. And a note tonight from Chuck in Tacoma, Washington, who asks, is the beer guy visiting all 400 breweries your new idol? No, Chuck, my idol is anybody who's watching this program live in Tacoma, Washington. See you next time.